We're talking about, with all the trade policy talks with the Trump administration and the tariffs going up and down like a roller coaster, and trade tensions being high, if you will. One of the things is there is a great, fantastic group of people that, first off, we all talk about our relationships. We got people that we know, we've worked with, we love dearly. In Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. And, off camera, Kiko is on here, and he just mentioned, at the end of the day, regardless of what our governments do, we have to work together. I love that statement. And this is one of the things that we're going to talk about, the North American Customs Broker Alliance. And it's a 3-nation deal. We're going to try and pull together some, I guess, efforts. So with that, anyway, I'm going to leave it. And Lalo, how do you want to introduce everybody or let them do themselves here?
Yeah. So I wanted to also kind of talk about this, Andy, because I was invited to one of the meetings of this group, and I was thinking to myself, I never heard of them. I'm glad that they brought me over to speak with them. I was just kind of thinking more like along the lines of, just trying to figure out how we could work together, and it was during that time that a lot of the policies and everything were coming out, and it was just like chaotic. In fact, I think when we were at the conference that day, the guys will remind me, everybody here will remind me, I don't know if it was that day or the day before, is when this big, huge announcement came out from the White House, and literally all the brokers that were at the conference were in their rooms, just scrambling, trying to help their clients. Anyway, we'll have them remind us. But so there's 3 nations again that we're talking about: North American Customs Brokers Alliance, and so we're talking about Mexico, U.S., and Canada, and we have representatives of that group from each one of the 3 countries. Andy, you already mentioned Kiko, but we also have JD representing the U.S. And then we are, as always, anytime we talk about Canada, we always have Miss Kim Campbell here with us. Thank you, Kim. And then for Mexico, we do have Carlos Martinez, and Carlos, and we'll talk a little bit about his background as well. But thank you, and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I know all of you are really busy right now, and things haven't really slowed down, and we really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and talk about your group. Kiko?
Yeah, so just real quick as an introduction to the NACBA group, this group was formed probably, I'd say 12, 13 years ago. There was a meeting in, at that time, was it Niagara Falls on the lake, Kim, or no, it was Calgary.
Yeah, but Kiko, I feel you never give yourself enough credit. You started this much more before that.
Yeah, but
right after 9/11.
Right. So, but the whole idea behind the group, just in a real short synopsis, is, again, we're probably one of the strongest trading blocs globally when I talk about Canada, U.S., and Mexico. And for U.S., I mean, it's always great to have our neighbors as our allies and partners. So we really thought that we needed to have a group that talked about what's going on in the trade space, aside from what was going on in the government space, because a lot of times the government makes decisions that we don't know anything about. And if we were involved from the beginning in the discussions, we might be able to avoid some pitfalls that these negotiations have, because we are the practitioners. We are the people that make things happen at the border. And sometimes our government regulators that don't have that experience make rules, and how would I put this? Not intentionally, but unintentionally make rules that make it more difficult to move trade. And so we thought we needed to get together and have dialogue amongst the 3 nations, again, to hear what's going on from our side within the nations and come up with solutions before it becomes a problem in reality.
Excellent. Well, with that, I guess the scenario here is in people coming together. Let me ask, Carlos, from your perspective on the Mexico side of things, Is this something that has been, well supported down in Mexico from the different brokers in the industry?
Totally. Since the beginning, I was in Mexico. We wanted to share experiences. We want to share the realities. We want to be in touch with our counterparts in the U.S. and in Canada, as Kiko said. And for us, it's always has been important the last 12 years. But as Kim said, it's way beyond that to have this relationship, because obviously not only uh, we're not only share this border, but we are allies and we're friends. And obviously, governments can talk each other in the way they do. But we as brokers, we have to talk each other's every day because we do the work. We are on the ports of entry. We share the clients, which we share everything that is happening over there. So that is why for us has always been important. Karen has always support NACBA, and it has been a really it has been really good experiences. To the NACBA group has been on our national congress. So our customs brokers have seen the evolution of what we have done here in the NACBA and how we are working every year in doing more and more for our region. So obviously we have had the support, and for us in Karem is something very important to continue to work.
Well, and all the different trade associations involved, and of course the brokers associations and all of that. I mean, Kim, on the Canadian side of things, from personal experience, there's a lot of Canadian brokers that would argue with a fence post. And so are they trying to come together and help with this initiative, or is that they just want to sit there and argue with each other?
Well, that's a great segue into talking and just capitalizing too on Carlos's great comments about it's been an evolution. And I think on the Canadian side, it's been a real evolution. And again, NCBFA, I think, has been really the great anchor piece to move us all forward. So I can say, and Kiko kind of talked about the Niagara Falls thing, that was a big part of the evolution. Is we kind of made a more formal agreement and put some words down on a piece of paper and kind of anchored our relationships. And I, at the time, was the chair of the Canadian Society of Customs Brokers. It was also part of NACBA, but moved on, and I'm here still as a NACBA member as SIFA. So SIFA joined the alliance a couple of years ago. So to your point, Andy, I would say yes, we're very committed. We just the Canadian experience is a little different because we have two of our national trade associations at the table representing customs brokers, and for sure everyone understands and sees that this is a very valuable exercise and want to be part of the dialogue for sure.
Excellent. Well, obviously Kiko's had a great vision in trying to help pull this together, and that's not surprising because Kiko, you have been phenomenal in the industry. But JD, have you been able to capitalize as well on rallying the troops from the NCBFAA?
You know what? I want to, first of all, thank you for this opportunity to speak up on this, and more anything else it hasn't really been more of a challenge because U.S. Customs really wants to get to know more of our partners, and I want to thank Carlos because we actually were in Mexico City in July, and we had 12 U.S. Customs officials headquarters down there, in addition to other members from local regional ports. That's unheard of, and so they really want to sit there, get to know how the process goes through. Carlos was not that meeting because there was a different administration, but we have switched with his new administration, and he seamlessly has had discussions with USTR and other members because we had another meeting. We had our GAC, and we were able to score on some good dialogue with with USTR, with customs. In addition to that, we had a congressman that we had some discussion with as well. And Carlos has stepped up to the plate. I mean, he's just made it because he was initially involved when it started like 10, 15 years ago. He was able to sit there, move forward, and sit there and have this discussion. So we've had great support from CBP, more anything else. In addition to that, Kim as well can sit there and attest. She's been in those discussions as well, and they really seem to have more of discussions with the southern border than they do the northern border because it seems like they have more areas of concern, and they want to make this a seamless, equal process. So in USMCA, right around the corner, that's something that this group really helps out with as well. I know that we are working on some additional dialogue with Leah at USTR on how we can go ahead and move forward with some of these FRN requests for discussion points. And so I really feel that we've done a lot. We moved forward. And one of the things that I really want to work with in my tenure as as president of National Custom Broker Association, I was really working on my international group. And this is part of one of the international groups. And I think this has been one of the strongest alliances that we worked through. And, I just really think that we've really moved forward, taken big strides in the last 4 years for this group, considering that it's been around for like 10, 15 years. So,
well, you guys must have an important message or something, because to get that many customs officials come down to Mexico City in July, oh my God. Lalo, you had something there, buddy.
No, yeah, I was going to ask and talk about, I know one of your biggest goals for the group right now has been USMCA. JD, you just alluded to that. And I wanted to maybe touch on that because not like maybe about a couple of weeks ago, I guess the official start of talks on all three countries have started. And I read somewhere that it's open for comments right now, from all three governments. I guess if the trade community wants to comment or say something, that it's open for that. But I wanted to ask the group and see what it is exactly that you all are seeing, because I know that has been like a lifesaver, a lifeline, let's call it, for a lot of companies that are shipping into the U.S., being able to avoid all the additional tariffs, not just the ad valorem, of course, that's a no-brainer, right? But I'm talking about, anything else that was stacked on top of that. But I guess my other part of the question would be also with talking and listening to everything that Trump is saying out there. He likes and loves bilateral agreements. He prefers them, in fact, according to him. So I'm just kind of curious if you all see the USMCA evolving more into like a U.S.-Mexico and a U.S.-Canada, maybe Canada-Mexico as well agreement. Like three separate agreements, in other words. Just throwing it out there and see what your thoughts or ideas might be on that.
Just to speak up first real quick, one of the things that we have focused a lot on this USMCA review, or whatever you want to call it. I think it's going to be a change in the program. Since a year ago, we've actually had a position paper that we've been circulating around, talking about the importance of USMCA, and it goes way beyond tariffs. I want to make that real clear. I mean, the USMCA is important for many other reasons, economically, for security purposes. There's a reason why we focus on it, and it's not simply tariffs. Tariffs is a big part of it, don't get me wrong, but it goes beyond that. I mean, we're talking about our neighbors. We're talking about a unified bloc. I don't want a neighbor that's not on the same level playing field as I am. And I hear our administration talk a lot about tariffs and who's getting tariffs and who's on the right side of that and who's on the wrong side. Again, go back. There's not a winner or loser. We all have to gain some ground on these negotiations. And at the end of the day, again, repeating myself, it goes way beyond tariffs. It goes into security, safety, and the
environment.
The environment and our economy. We want to make sure we stay as vibrant as we are today, and moving forward, we want to have that.
For Mexico, since the beginning of the NAFTA, not only USMCA, NAFTA, it changed their reality. NAFTA created the North American region, and it's a different game. And when the first review, the first renegotiation, it was the change from NAFTA to USMCA. What we learned about that process is that the NAFTA has been a success, and that we have to go forward, no backwards. And there's no way to go back. But obviously we have to defend that, and we have to continue to see the issues that are coming from. As Kiko said, right now, it's a lot of more about trade. For example, you have to see what is happening with Mexico right now this year. There's a lot of issues between U.S. and Mexico. Obviously, there have been a lot of agreements, and we are very optimistic about that. Really, also with Canada. Last week, the Prime Minister of Canada was in Mexico, and it was a good conversation. But at the end of the story, we in Mexico have very clear that we are a North American bloc, that we have to preserve this trilateral agreement, even though in other issues there can be bilateral agreements. But USMCA has to continue forward with that vision, because that vision is what makes us stronger and what makes us the most important region in the world. So I think obviously the stakes are high. There are a lot of obstacles. Obviously, there are a lot of challenges in the reality. Politics, obviously, it makes harder things. But at the end of the story, if we go back and understand this picture, this all what has happened since 1994 to this date, what we have seen is a story of success, of collaboration, and obviously that it has to continue to go forward in that direction. So that's what we think in Mexico. We hope it's a revision, not a renegotiation. We hope this to 2026 we can go forward without that level of uncertainty that we have had this year. But let's hope for the best. And in Mexico, we have begun to work with that. The first meetings in order to open all the sectors to see what they have to say about the process has opened up, and I think it will be a good process. So we are optimistic about that, and I think we have learned that lesson, that the North American region has to continue and to be stronger.
You said, Kiko, you all have a position paper.
Mm-hmm.
What would be, I guess, with the thing cutting to the chase? I mean, I'm sure there's lots of discussions and going around and back and forth. And Kim, not to cut you off as far as, talking about from the Canadian perspective on that, but literally, pulling together this position paper, I assume, is a trilateral type of initiative. What would be let's say, the top 3 initiatives on that position paper?
Well, here's what I would say about that. We have a meeting coming up in Toronto. Our position paper that we put together at the beginning was pretty, it wasn't going into a lot of detail. It was a very open position paper supporting USMCA. I think we've seen now that the official remark periods are open. We're trying to get more information as to what each country is looking to improve on, where there's been deficiencies, what we can possibly as organizations help improve. I mean, just as a couple of examples that are happening right now, Mexico just initiated a reform to the customs regulations, which is really contrary to what USMCA wants. So how can we address that issue? Stability of platforms for international trade, that's also a key for USMCA. We want to have good flow, and I let Kim address Canada and the stability of their platform right now. It's not favorable. JD, when we were in Washington, has a great relationship with USTR, Leah Liston. She actually told us there's a list of things that the governments are looking for to improve the agreement. And some of the things that they're looking for are actually very simple fixes. And so we've asked her to tell us what those are so that we can go back to our countries and find out why these things aren't happening and improve on those. So again, I'd like JD and Kim to address some of these things. They've been in the meetings, and I think they've been very, very positive, and they're looking for good answers, easy fixes, not big giant fixes, but easy fixes to continue on with this agreement.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'll jump in. I can't say anything more eloquent than my friend and colleague Carlos Martinez just talked about from the Mexican perspective, because Canada feels exactly the same way on the renegotiation. We had, I feel, a really great meeting between our Prime Minister and President Trump last week. Or was it this week? It's all a bit of a blur. I think it was this week. And we were looking forward to something positive there. And as we already know from the existing free trade agreement, there are side letters that can happen bilaterally between countries where there's specific issues to those two countries in particular that are outside of the trilateral. So we would assume that framework's already there, and those pieces could probably be worked through it in that way, or just some kind of bilateral agreement outside of the core agreement. So for sure Canada's looking at it from a review perspective. I for sure have been in all those meetings with USTR, and they've been very, I think, helpful, not only from a USTR perspective, but for us as a group as well, because this is a North American Customs Brokers Alliance, of course, obviously we look at it from the lens of our own members, but we're also really looking at it from the lens of importers and exporters, the clients that we serve. So we're able to, come forward because we see things from A to Z. We see all clients, all modes, all countries going in and out, and can give that perspective. So I know from a Canadian piece of it, we have a few things that we could probably shore up, and that's called out in the USTR book. Of course, my favorite, I can't help myself but say CARM in every single conversation. CARM's out there, release part of payments out there. There's some major irritants that are valid, and hopefully our government can finally start to address some of them. It's been a year since this program's been put in place, and small and medium companies, both exporting to Canada and importing or trying to import from the US, are still really under the gun of this project. So that is a massive irritant from a USTR perspective, that US goods might be at disadvantage. So those are things that we're putting on the list, Andy, and we are working hard. That's the other great thing I love about this group, that we can come collectively together and talk to our administrations. Karim has been great to get an M at the table. I know there's been conversations with SAT as well. Our great NCBFA colleagues, of course, have USCBP. I'm always inspired and get re-energized every time I get a meeting with them, because they show the way of how collaboration can work between trade and the government. CBSA, unfortunately, we're still trying to get them to see the light, but I'm hopeful through these interactions and the support now of USCBP to talk about the good experience of meeting with NACBA, that we will at some point in the near future get the opportunity to talk to CBSA and again start working together to deal with these irritants, will be very helpful for everyone.
That's fantastic. JD, did you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sit there, a lot of discussion that we've had, and I noticed that Carlos has been heavily involved just recently with Leah from USTR, and some of the challenges that Mexico came out with. And one of the things that we're trying to work with, being from the southern border, is trying to have a national broker's permit like we have on the U.S. side. I know they're very limited, so that's one of the things that we're working through. In addition to that, some of the recent changes that's kind of affecting our industry in reference to the drivers, they're requiring, they're kind of limiting the B1 permits. So we're trying to add that in there as well. In addition to requiring to speak completely English, and some of those drivers do not travel into the United States; they just go cross border, and they're just back and forth. And a lot of the southern border, most of us are bilingual in the aspect where we have to work with everybody within the region. They just go pick up trucks, cross from one side, go back and forth. And now they're starting to do requirement where they have to be 80% proficient in English. So that's kind of limiting them as well. And they're not renewing visas. So now we're creating an even bigger shortage in the driver pool that we have. So we're trying to include some of those topics as well, hoping that we can kind of move forward and we can kind of, continue this trilateral and not switch over to a bilateral, because this should be a review, not a renegotiation. So we're kind of hoping that we can kind of move forward in that aspect and see, how we can kind of work on the problem points, and see it, and also, have our dialogue and discussions, and then make things a little bit better, because there is always room for improvement, but at the same time, there's not room for change. Complete change, if that makes sense. Because like Carlos said earlier, it's a very extreme success that we've been working with our partners countries, and I'm hoping we can continue the USMCA process.
Andy, just real quick, one of the things that came out of our group is at the last meeting that we had in September in Washington, D.C., we did meet with USTR. And USTR told us that they were having difficulty in negotiations with their counterparts in Mexico. So they asked us as a group if we could facilitate putting together a meeting where we can all meet in one place and talk about some of the pain points. Carlos is leading the charge, has actually set up a meeting for the third week of January, Carlos, to have that meeting in Mexico City. So, these are the kind of things that we can help and assist. When you have a unified voice, it helps. And Kim alluded to something about CBP. CBP has always been great at collaborating with the NCBFAA. And again, I tip my hat to JD. He's built some very strong connections within the CBP organization, and he picks up the phone, and within a day or two, we have a meeting set up, which is fantastic. But we're trying to leverage that to get the other government agencies in Canada and Mexico to have that same collaborative effort with their private and public sector. And CBP's very graciously told us if we can help and support that cause, we will do it, which is a great thing for us and for everybody on this call, because we are very lucky in the United States to have that collaboration.
Excellent. Carlos, you look like you're jumping to get in on this.
No, just as Kiko said, we have to recognize Jade's leadership because he has opened a lot of doors with CBP, with the U.S. authority, and with the USTR, and we have seen the difference in this group, in the quality of meetings, in the issues that we have talked about in the meetings, and the relationship that has been established with CBP and with the USTR, and that is all to JD's leadership. I have to recognize that, and that obviously has boosted what this group can do. And what we're going to do in Mexico City in next January, I think, will be in the same direction. I think it will strengthen the work of this group, and to close to create a space, a safe space, not only for us as customs brokers, but also for authorities, that they feel safe with us, because we work day by day in the same issues, to talk about what we see, to share experiences, and to talk about the things that are obviously that are missing. For example, in Mexico, we have a program with the OEA that is very similar, for example, with CityPad, and we can do a lot of work together, and it's not done right now. So there's a lot of things that we have to do. Obviously, this 2026 will be a good year for doing that, but also we have to talk about the maturity of this group, what NACBA has done all this past 12 years, and obviously the recent four years with JD in the NCBFA, and obviously with CIFA also being tracked in the group, and with Kiko obviously leading the efforts of these works. I think we have now in a position, in a very strong position, that right now we can talk about a unified voice. We can talk about that we have the elements, the information, that we share information, and that we know the key aspects. And what we can do in this review is we can tell the authorities to see some of the little issues that can make a lot of differences in the process. So I think we're working in the right direction, and I think this group right now can be in a good position for being a strong voice of this process, of the USMCA review process in 2026.
I love all this because, you guys are, what I'm finding, or what I'm hearing, I guess, interpreting, is, and Lalo, this is, I mean, phenomenal. You don't hear any egos here. You don't hear any things where somebody's like, well, they're competing to drive the bus kind of. This is as you're talking about, a unified effort where it's focused. I'm sure there's disagreements. That's why we're getting together, or you guys are meeting and talking through some things. So that safe place to say, hey, I don't agree with this. Let's talk it through, and then come up with a way to work through some of these things. I'm sure is how some of this comes about. That is, that collaboration is fantastic. So, I mean, I love all this.
Yeah, what I'm seeing is also like throughout this whole conversation, everybody's passing the ball to the other one. Carlos did this, Kiko did this, Kim did this, whatever, and they're not taking the credit. This is amazing. Yeah. So to your point, Andy, I think this is great. And I saw that in that meeting. Like I said, that's why I was motivated and inspired to put this group together for this conversation. I guess in the interest of time and all that, do y'all have anything else that you might want to close with, or anything, any closing remarks, or maybe something we might have missed? I mean, we can extend this a little longer if you need to, but
I see JD's hand up. I don't know if JD, did you want to jump in there?
Yeah, just real quick, I want to sit there, follow up on some of Carlos' comments as well. But just to, we've had some issues, and Customs has reached out to us, the certain pain points that they've had, and a lot of it requires legislation. But and we understand. But at the same time, there's certain individuals that we've grown up with, and we've also had. They've managed to move themselves up in key positions in key roles in the government. So there are contacts, and they're able to go ahead and reach out to us and have this dialogue that our deficiencies are our pain points that we're working through. But on top of that, as you see in this meeting alone that we're having, a lot of it's substance. I mean, we can go out there and say, you know what, we're going to have a discussion and have a photo op, and we don't want that. We want to have dialogue. We want to have substance. We want to look for, solutions for the situation that we're going through, and have them listen to us on further discussions that we're working through. And every time we've had these meetings with our government, especially with customs, they've grown. People have attended. So we've had several meetings with our government officials, especially customs headquarters, and we're seeing this. So that's what I really give credit and kudos to this group, because without this group, I really think that, it'd still be just discussions that we have amongst ourselves. But now we got our government partner agencies involved as well. So
I love it.
Well said, JD. One of the things that I will say also, it's always great as a group when you start to get recognized for what you're doing, but also that the government is reaching out to you for a request. When they're asking you to help them out, now you've gotten somewhere, and it's not just a one-sided dialogue or discussion. Both sides are gaining from what we're doing right now. I think that's a great example of this group. And you're right, Lalo. The group, there's no egos in this group. We're all at the table for the same thing, and that's just to maintain a strong relationship with the three countries, maintain a good flow of goods, because that's our livelihood. That's what we do on a day-to-day basis, and we want to make sure that stays safe and it continues on the way it's been going for the last 15, 20 years under this agreement.
All right, let me ask you all a question. What about other trade associations like industry trade, lumber, agriculture, manufacturing, whatever? Do you are you open to them getting involved with your efforts to try and try and affect change, or are you trying to keep it pretty much in the supply chain?
Well, as an example, the position paper that we had for the USMCA renewal, we reached out to all organizations and sign on to this agreement because we want everybody's support. The stronger the group is, the bigger the group is, the louder the voice is, the more attention you're going to get. So, I mean, we understand we're a strong group, but there's a lot of organizations involved in international trade, and we want all of them to be involved in this effort.
Well, I will say that as we're looking at this, one of the things that I obviously, last year talking there, and I know some of my stuff gets somewhat controversial, but I love to throw things out so that people, then it stimulates them. Either they get mad enough to start saying something, or they start talking about it. But one of the things, again, with the Canadian side, I still don't understand the U.S. position. And on the U.S. side, for the soft lumber, I mean, good night. We need in the U.S. the lumber. On the flip side is the agriculture. In Mexico is again, with the energies and stuff like that, is a trade issue. And in particular for all three countries, the aluminum and steel tariffs. And that's a huge issue regarding things like, if we have a North American bloc and we're able to trade more freely of all three of our goods amongst ourselves, it should, stimulate trade astronomically. And so that's one of those things where all those industries really need to come together. This would be a fantastic medium to, I guess, pull together for the policies that they're looking for, and hopefully even come up with some solutions in working through some of that.
Yeah. Politics are difficult, though, Andy, and I agree with your statement. There's a lot of things that we can't find or do in this country, and why we're putting roadblocks on those being imported or exported is beyond my comprehension. But again, I think our group is focused on a big block, this amazing block of countries, Mexico, U.S., and Canada. And those issues are issues that we're concerned about, and we definitely would love to address. But I guess you got to pick your poison right now. USMCA seems to be at the top of the list right now. But that's not to say that these other issues aren't important. We need to address. I think this is an all-encompassing discussion.
And
I love it.
also,
All right,
you let me add,
go ahead.
we have to think in the long run and to have a broader perspective. For example, this kind of issues can in at the end of the story, people leadership changes, ambition changes. But what we have to defend is that the platform of the North American region, the USMCA, whatever name we can put to that, it continues to be there, because obviously these kind of rules and of policies, trade policies can change with time. But if we had this platform, this scenario is what will continue, what will maintain the North American region. So that's why we have to defend this in the long term.
I love it.
Right. I was going to say, in all these discussions, I guess this show is actually airing on October 23rd. So that's a week before this whole group is meeting at, and then we'll ask Kim to give us the details. The reason I'm wanting to do this, I know it's going to probably be too late for anybody to register and make plans and everything, although I'm sure they'll take any registrations, even if they're last minute. But the reason I want to say that is because if you happen to be at that event, look them up. I mean, talk to them. And if you want to get involved, tell them you want to get involved. I mean, I know Kiko has always been really open to that. But Kim, can you remind us of where you guys are getting together in Canada here next week?
Yes, we're going to be at the in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. On our NACBA group meeting is on October the 27th, and then that's followed by a 2-day conference with SIFA, their annual conference. And SIFA, of course, covers freight forwarders, customs brokers, warehouse operators, and anyone in the kind of moving goods across the border. So it's an amazing conference. We had our first one last year. This is our second, and we have amazing speakers from all over the world talking about freight movement and all the amazing things around that. And so that's the following 2 days, which I believe is the 28th, 29th. I'm sorry, I don't have the actual dates out, so I hope I'm not wrong there, but I'm fairly sure I'm right. And also, too, don't forget, we're hoping Toronto might be closer to their spot in the World Series. So that's something else to be excited about if you're going to be up. So, yes.
I see JD's ears perking up.
But I think that's what you were looking for, Lalo, for the details.
Yes. Thank you so much. And by the time this show airs, we will know if they are in the World Series or not, because that's around the time that it's going down. So they beat my Yankees, so I can't really cheer for them too much, but still.
Yeah, I was disappointed in one respect. On the flip side of it, I was fortunate enough to be in Canada and working in Canada when the Blue Jays
away from home, Andy. I know.
Oh, man,
that
was a great time, wasn't it? So it looks like they're knocking on the door again. So
my first game, Major League Baseball game ever I saw when I was a kid was in Toronto. It was a Blue Jays game. Obviously, that's why. Go Blue Jays. So that's a good start.
Nice.
I love the Sky Dome up there. That is phenomenal. Yeah. Great stadium.
Nice.
Well, folks, listen, y'all are great. One last question is, if people are wanting to know more about the NACBA Alliance, where can they go and find it?
Wow, that's a great question. We need a webpage, I feel like now.
We don't have a webpage right now. Actually, if they wanted to see what's going on the NCBFA website, there is a international page that talks about the different groups that we have going internationally, and some of our meetings and things of that nature are on that site. But again, originally the NACBA group was just this alliance between Canada, U.S., and Mexico. And in Canada, of course, we have CSCB and SIFA, those two organizations. And so I think we're evolving over the days. And as this group continues to grow, we may have to have our own webpage. But at this point, you'd have to go through the NCBFA website to find any information on the NACBA group.
And is the position paper you were talking about, is that been published for public use?
I'm not sure if it's on the website or not. We've circulated the position paper quite extensively. but I'm not sure that it's on any website or anything at this point.
I think you've given us some to-do items, Andy, for our meeting.
Yeah, like I'm taking notes. Action item 1, 2, 3. Jesus, you're giving me more work, man.
Good call out.
If it's available for public viewing, I can put it on our website and then link it to the show notes.
Yeah.
At least people can access it right away. And then
I can
whenever
send that to you.
Yeah, we'll do that. And I'll put on the show notes also links to everybody's group, like AREM and NCBFA, CIFA. I'll do links to all those.
Perfect.
Of course, everybody will have their LinkedIn links on the show notes. So I'll do as much as I can just to make it easy for everyone to get in touch. I'll even give out JD's personal cell phone number.
For a good time.
I was watching TV here the other day, and I saw, wow, man, they have these numbers still, 900s, but that's another story. But with that being said, we do have another organization as well, and it's the Canadian. They have 2 different organizations.
Yes.
So Kim, you might want to touch on
CSEB,
that.
yes. So
Yes.
we'll make sure we get the CSEB's website as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One last thing I do want to call out, because this has also kind of been a goal of the NACBA group, is understanding the pain points within Mexico and Canada and the United States. So to that end, Carlos has been very instrumental in working with their university, CAREM University, to develop a course importing into and exporting out of Mexico, which is fantastic. It's going to be released next week in the United States. And for importers, anybody that's doing trade in Mexico, whether they're importing into or exporting out of Mexico, I know as a business owner, I get questions every day from my clients. Why is this happening? Why wasn't I able to do this or that, the other? And I tell them till I'm blue in the face, and it's like talking to your kids. They don't listen to the parents, but if someone else tells them, they start getting it, right? So we have a course that's going to talk about all the regulations in Mexico. So if people are doing business in Mexico, this is a must-have in their catalog of things to look at.
Hey, listen, we need to get you guys to come back after the your conference and your meetings and whatnot, and give us some updates ever so often here, so we can
More than happy to
rally the industry to say, hey, this is where you need to go. And part of this needs to be reaching out to the representatives, your elected officials in each of the 3 countries, saying, we support this, or here's what we want. Don't just say support it. Here specifically is what we need you to do. You need to spell it out. Don't let an elected official try and sit there and figure it out. Hey, this group could be so instrumental in giving common sense in these trade negotiations, and hopefully that will come forth.
Yep.
Andy, just to add, I know that in reference to just the United States alone, I mean, we're really close to Henry Cuellar, our representative, and he's actually working on certain position papers on discussion that we had, some with the NCBFA, but on top of that, he let us use his office to have the meeting with USTR, in addition to having a meeting with him the next day. So he's very open. He's listening to our discussions. And so we're working with our local representatives, and he's very friendly, bipartisan, even though he's Democrat. A lot of Republicans like to talk to him as well, because he's a leader on the southern border, and he understands the border. He's actually a customs broker, so he really helps us out a lot. So.
And what's his name again?
Congressman Henry Cuellar.
Congressman Henry Cuellar.
I love it.
The other thing, and I'll give credit to Kim for this statement, but it's a true statement. You can't go into a meeting for the first time and get anything done. It takes time to build up relationships and that comfort level with the people that you're dealing with. Kim has made that very clear many, many times. And again, it's a true statement. People are going to listen to you once they know you, they trust you, and they confide with you on some of the things that they may not confide with you on the first visit. So this has been something that we've been building on, and really in the last 4 years, we've really taken it to the next level. A lot of people in the government agencies have a strong comfort level with us, and are willing to discuss things that they're not going to discuss with anybody. And again, going back to JD, he's built some strong relationships in CBP where they come to the table. And I mean, I've been involved with the NCBFA for, I don't even want to say how many years, but a long time. And I've never seen the open dialogue that we've had over the last 2 or 3 years. And again, JD, to your credit, a lot of great work has been done to build those relations.
Yeah.
And Kim, I gotta say, you are such a phenomenal leader and have so much impact there in Canada. You have for years, but you're one, and every one of y'all are so fantastic. But I gotta say, Kim has a graciousness to her that is just phenomenal, and yet don't underestimate the feisty as they come.
Oh, that's sweet, Andy. I take that whole thing as an amazing compliment.
Yeah, you too. All right, gang. You listen. Please, please, please plan on us. We need to get it on the books so that at some point after your meeting, we can rally this group back together and say, okay, here's what you've been able to accomplish. Here's the focus. And we can get everybody on board on saying, here's the specific actions that need to be taken to support you.
Sounds great. Good seeing everybody.
Thank you so much, as always.
Yeah, absolutely.
Folks, have a great day, and we're going to turn it back over to you.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.